My name is Chef Louis Simard. I've moved to the island with my family about 3 years ago, and I'm so happy we did this. This is a great place to call our home, raise our children, so we're really happy to be here. It's a little piece of paradise. Being on an island, first thing people ask me is like, oh, you must eat a lot of fish. Yeah, but we also have, it's a big island, so we got access to a lot of things. But today I decided to show you a recipe with fish because I'm guilty of it. Often I buy fish at a fish truck, and every Friday in Minnemoya, right? But the simplicity of fish. Sometimes you just pan fry it with butter, squeeze a little lemon, salt. It's good. It doesn't need anything else. Well, once in a while, it's nice to fancy it up. But I'm going to show you a way to do it without spending months in the kitchen and stressing out about it. So I'm going to show you it sounds complicated, but it's a very easy recipe. And I'm showing you the base, so then you can make it your own, because food is personal. Everybody does things their own way. I really like spicy food. I really like, and this is the kind of recipe that you can enhance, that you can modify and make it your own. Beef Wellington is very famous. A beef tenderloin wrapped in prosciutto with a mushroom duxelle wrapped in crepes. Okay, I'm already tired of talking about the beef tenderloin. Fish tenderloin is really easy because you don't need to have all those restraints that you have with beef and checking the temperature. And with fish, if the puff pastry is cooked, your fish is going to be cooked. So you don't need to worry about that so much. It's a nice way to impress people when you're hosting people. You come out with this dish, you'll see it's quite impressive, and like I said, it's not super complicated. For today, to show you, I'm going to do it with cream cheese. It's good to take it out of the fridge maybe a good half hour before using it, so it's a little bit more soft, so it's easier to work with. And one of the most disappointing vegetables on earth, spinach. And I'll show you why it's disappointing. It's delicious, but it's so full of water. We're gonna take this whole bag of spinach, like it's a big bag of spinach, and it's gonna come down to nothing, right? Like if you cook spinach, it's so sad. You're like, it's so much spinach, and you cook it, and you're like, where did it go? So this is a fun way to do that. All you need is a pot with about this much water in it. You don't need fat, you don't need butter, you don't need oil at this point. You just want to break down the cellulose of the spinach and let it release its water. A good way to do that is a tiny bit of water in a pot, bring it to a boil, lots of salt. Now, so people that watch the amount of salt there, that's fine. You don't need to put a lot. It tastes good with a lot. And you're not ingesting all that salt. We're gonna leave the water behind, the salted water behind. It's just gonna help break down the spinach and just give it a little bit of taste. So I'll show you. I don't have the exact measurement, but it's about 2 ounces, like a shot glass, a big thick shot glass of kosher salt. We're gonna put that in the water. Then we're gonna take the 2-pound bag of spinach or 4-pound bag of spinach, put it in the pot, and we're gonna be left with nothing. It's the same thing when you cook a recipe that has mushroom inside. It's all like, even if you're just making pizza, it's always good to cook your mushroom first. So you're gonna get rid of all that excess water, and you're left with a more flavorful item. So this spinach will take no time to cook at all. And then I set up my sink with a colander, right? So you're just mixing the spinach, just turning it around so the hot water just start to break it down. So far, it's pretty easy. And you'll see the water will start turning green, and then the salt in the hot water is just getting the spinach to break down and release all that water. When you see that your spinach looks like this, I don't know if you can see, it's ready to go. You don't need to cook it more than that. So we're gonna dump out excess water. Now, if you're at home or you got everything close by, run cold water if you want. Ice cold water, it will help like to keep the spinach really green. And then squeeze. It's hot, so that's why the cold water help also, and it'll help the green color of the spinach. So while this is slightly cooling down, so I can squeeze it better, because I'm tough, but not that tough, I'm gonna show you the fish. So this recipe, it's interchangeable. If you like salmon, if you have salmon, if you like trout, if you like bass, any fish will do. I got white fish from Purvis. You can do two types of fish. You can do a trout and I'll show you how it works. It's gonna be almost like a sandwich. But yeah, we do have access to a lot of good fish. And one thing, for any protein you cook, any fish or any meat, even chicken, get it dry. If you cook a wet fish, it's gonna boil before it crisps. You wanna get rid of any excess water. You'll never get a good sear on a steak if it's wet. So the best way to do it is to dry it out. Use towels. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are from the island, been to the island for a while. You all know how to fillet a fish. And there's an expression about having more than one way to do something, and it's involving cats. And I'd never understood that. I don't want to say it because it's horrible. I'm not a cat person, but so I would like to start a new trend that we say there's more than one way to fillet a fish. Right? Is that better? I like it better. So you dry your fish really well. And now it's good to work with. It's less slippery. It's gonna, if you want to pan fry it, it's ready to go. Now this recipe, I'm not keeping the skin because the fish is gonna be cooked inside a pastry. And personally, again, it's a personal thing, I like a crispy skin on a fish. If you like any type of, you can leave the skin on. There's no law or rules or police that will come and arrest you because you left the fish skin. So I always start with the tail end, and I do a movement like this and just follow the cutting board. I like a flexible knife to do that, really thin blade, so it really but whatever you're comfortable with is the knife you should use. Again, there's no knife police. So I just go underneath. So I just did a movement like this, and then I just follow, and you get a hold of the skin, and you just follow down the cutting board. And then you got no fish left on the skin, and no skin left on the fish. So we won. When you work in a butcher shop or a commercial kitchen, and sometimes you have like 2,000-3,000 to make, you get fast and good at it. If not, you get replaced. So now we have our fish filleted. The pastry. So puff pastry is very interesting. It's a very cool dough. I don't recommend doing it at home. I don't do it at home. I buy it. It is the concept of it is very, very thin layers of butter separated with really, really thin layers of flour. So the way it's done, it's folded, folded, flattened, folded, folded, flattened, folded, folded, like forever and ever. So just buy it. Look for the one that says 100% butter. The other fats, who knows what they put in there, and if they use 100% butter, usually it's good quality flour, no preservative, that kind of stuff. Unless you like that, and then buy that. Cooking is personal, so there's no right or wrong. So you keep it it usually comes frozen, and you take it out of the freezer a few hours before you want to use it, and it's very delicate. Because on a microscopic level, it's a little thin layer, every time you touch it and press it, you're breaking down those layers, and then your dough won't puff as much. So the more you manipulate it, the less it's going to be the way it should be. Usually it comes separated with the magical thing, parchment paper, which is, like, I use that for everything in all the time. So all you got to do, you put one layer down. I'm going to chop the spinach now that it's a little bit cooler. Squeeze all that excess water. Some say there's vitamins and nutrients in there, of course, but we don't want all that water. We're getting rid of it. Just move this to the side. We give it a rough chop. Worst case scenario, if you don't have the spinach or don't have time to do the spinach, you could use frozen spinach, but I feel like there's always a taste to it that... So the way puff pastry works is it's gonna glue together, seal together using eggs. So we're going to crack a couple eggs here. And we're just going to use the yolks. There's several good places to get eggs on the island, so I'm not going to tell you where to get it, but so I got 2 yolks. I'm going to put a dash of water in there, just to help loosen it up. Give it a little bit of a stir, and then I'm going to make a seal around. So it's like I'm building something here. So I want it to seal the dough. So I just went around, I'll show you, and just did a little square around. Because the middle doesn't matter, there's going to be fish and everything on there. So you can put, like I said, any type of fish you want. Notice that I put the tail end at this end. I'll show you something later. I don't like to make jealous people when I cook, so I'll try to make it even for everybody. And then I have my cream cheese. And you can put a lot. You can put dill, you can put onions in there, you can put bacon bits. At this point, this is where you get to create your own. You could put like caramelized onion in there, would be delicious. A little bit of tomato relish, like anything goes at this point. I'm gonna do it with spinach. And I'm going to put a little bit more cheese, because we like cheese. And because earlier I put the tail end at this end, now I'm going to put the tail at the other end. So when I cut it, it's not like somebody get both pieces of the it's just those little details. It does make a difference, right? When somebody's looking at somebody else's plate, it's like, oh, come on, I got that. So, like I said, I don't like to make jealous people when I'm cooking, so I try to make it even for everyone. And then you can just grab another layer put it on top, and gently press it down. Oh, I took this one out of the fridge a little too early. Starting to warm up a little too much. Now, at this point for the top, gently press it without over manipulating it, just to try to get rid of the excess air pockets. And you kind of press the dough around the outside, so with the egg yolk, it will seal. Then you can take a knife. Now, you can have fun at this point. You could make little fish scale. You can make little eye. Like I've seen it, but you know, sometimes it's good to just keep it. We used to have that saying in kitchen, and it's kiss it. Keep it simple, stupid. Right? So then you can just trim and get rid of the excess dough, because the end it's good pastry, but it's not what we're here for. We're here for the fish, right? So once you have your Wellington done, egg yolks on top, your egg yolk mix that you use for sealing. What it's gonna do, it's gonna help giving a golden color, a nice golden crisp color. So it's like making pies, or you know. A nice egg wash, it's called. And then a little sprinkle of salt on top. And what the salt will speckle it, and it's going to be a nice texture and taste when you bite into that. Like one piece of salt is going to be really cool. Now at this point, has to go in the fridge or freezer if you want to cook it soon. Put it in the freezer for 10, 15 minutes. You want the dough to be ice cold. Put it in the fridge for a couple hours. The reason is because it's layers of butter and flour, if it's a little warm because you took it out, when you put it in the oven, the butter will start melting and your dough won't rise. If it's ice cold, it's going to be a shock when it goes in the oven. And the outside will seal, and all those pieces of butter between the flour will try to bubble and lift your dough. And then you got a puffy pastry. So it goes in the fridge. When we're gonna cook it, we're gonna turn on the oven, preheat it at 450, hot oven. You put it in the oven, turn it down to 425, maybe 15, 20 minutes. You'll see when you see the nice color start coming down, then turn it down to maybe 375 until it looks right. If it looks right on the outside, it's going to be cooked on the inside. That's the beauty. A meat, it takes a little longer, so you got to muck around with it. And a fish, if the outside is cooked, the inside is definitely cooked. Now, there's another rule in the kitchen that you're supposed to rest your roasts as long as you've cooked it. So if you do a whole strip loin and you bake it in the oven for 3 hours, you should almost rest it for 3 hours. Now, it's going to be cold. Well, you put it back in the oven for 20 minutes just before serving it. The way that it's going to even the color, the temperature is going to be all the juice will stay in. When you cut it, it won't just all disappear, bleed out. Fish is a little bit the same thing when you bake something like this. So it's good to take it out probably half hour before you want to eat it, and then let it rest. It's been working hard for you, so it's good to let it relax, let it cool down. So I'm gonna put this one here. Now what? Yeah. How long? What temperature do you preheat it? 450 to preheat the oven.
No, sorry. When you rest it, after you rest it, put it back to the oven.
350 maybe, just to get it back hot. Yeah. Now, while our fish is resting, and I quote unquote, because I have one ready. Don't worry, we're not going to eat that one. We won't have to wait for that long. So I'm going to show you a sauce to go with it. It's one of the mother sauces. It's called Hollandaise. It's intimidating for people that have never done it, but it's really, really easy. Because it's a mutter sauce, that means there's a lot of derivative, other sauce you can make from the base. Now, there's going to be a lot of recipe that you can find, and like whatever you find online, it's probably going to work. I'll tell you my way of doing it because I find it simple. 4 eggs, 1 pound of butter, 1 lemon. How easy is that? 4, 1, 1. There's a quiz later, and nobody can leave. Like we're gonna have questions on how many eggs was it, and so it's one of those recipe that it's an emulsion, and you want to bring the egg yolks. We're only going to use the yolks to the point where they're starting to cook, but they're not cooked because then they're going to curdle. You're going to have scrambled yolks. So this is where I would like you to practice it a couple times at home, right? One morning on Sunday, I'll make breakfast, and you try making hollandaise sauce at home, and then if it doesn't work, it's okay. You still got the rest of the breakfast. But then after doing it a couple times, you'll see you build the confidence to do it, and it's very, very easy. So again, we're gonna have more egg white for our scrambled eggs tomorrow morning. That's great. So we're only using the yolk. Those shells are a little brittle. A bowl, a whisk, a lemon. So some people put a white wine reduction in there. You could put flavors. You could put spinach. You can put all sorts of things in there. I'm showing you the base. So then you'll see when it's done and see I really like, tomatoes. So you can put tomato paste in there. And then your hollandaise is going to become what it's called a choron, which is tomato paste flavored hollandaise. So very easy to do. So you just give it a little swirl. You gotta pick a bowl that fits on top. So it's cooked on a bain-marie, it's called. So you got the steam will cook the bottom. And then that's where if the phone rings, you don't go pick it up. If somebody's at the door, it's like, gotta wait. It doesn't take long because steam is hot. And it's gentle heat though. So you put it on there, you take it off, you put it back on, and you go back and forth a few times, and you're gonna slowly start cooking the eggs. So I'm just scraping the bottom of the bowl because, what's in the bottom is what's gonna cook first. That's it, I'm just going around in a circle. So far, making hollandaise is pretty easy, right? And then I see that I can feel the bowl is getting a little warm, so that's good. So now we're starting to cook. We're starting to cook. And that's where practicing it a few times, you'll get to understand how far you can cook your eggs before they become scrambled eggs. And at this point, there's going to be a little bit of air incorporated in it, but this is not where it's an emulsion yet. The emulsion is going to come when we add the butter, because it's a very healthy sauce. So I'll come and try to stay away from that speaker. When you see that it's becoming like this, I don't know if you can, it coats the bowl, so that's it. That's all we want. And then I'll show you a trick that I borrowed from upstairs to hold your bowl, because you're going to need 3 hands to do this. And I don't have 3. I tried to grow a third one. It didn't work. So I took a damp towel and I just swirl it around. And now I make a little ring, and this is where my bowl's going to sit. And it's not going to slide all over the place. And now I can stir it. And now I can pick up the phone. No. 4 eggs, 1 lemon, 1 pound of butter. So I melted the butter. You want it warm-ish, not hot, piping hot, because if you pour boiling hot butter in there, it's going to cook the eggs. If it's too cold, your sauce is going to be cold. So just warm, just warm. What happens when you melt butter gently, the milk solid separates. So at the bottom, it's all milk solid, and then you got that beautiful fat on top. So we want the fat on top. That's what we want. So if you do it in a container like this kind of shape or size, then you can just put the pound of butter, put it in a pot with that, add the boiling water, put a lid on it, turn it off, and the butter will melt and be at the right temperature. And that's where your third arm would be good, because I can't hold the bowl because now I'm pouring and mixing at the same time. So now, especially at the beginning, this is where the tricky part is. You want to start pouring butter and mixing it without seeing butter accumulate on top of your sauce, if it makes sense. So you pour it really gently and stop. Mix, 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 and you stop. Once it starts to emulsify, then you can start pouring it a little faster. It's just the beginning that is the tricky part. And I'll just come by, staying away from the speaker. And you see where this is starting to become an emulsion now. It's already getting thicker. So then you just keep pouring. We're going to go through that whole pound of butter. So I'm glad there's more than 2 of you here, because it would be a very rich snack. Can you do 2 eggs and half a pound? Of course. But if you do it in small quantity, it's almost harder to cook the yolk. And 4 eggs to a pound is pretty much the best way to do it. And now I can start pouring a little bit faster because I already got an emulsified base, so it won't split out easily. And remember how we wanted the fat to emulsify, so that's why we separate. Now, if the Hollandaise police would exist, they would definitely arrest me, because I found in those milk solid tons of delicious flavor. So I don't want to waste that. I don't want to use that, let that go to waste. So I pour it at the end inside the sauce, which is not, you're not supposed to do that, but it tastes good. Instead of adding salt at the end, because the salt will all be in the milk solid, instead of adding salt to the salt is already there. Everything you need is there. So instead of throwing it away, and I just pour it in at the end. And now we have all of this sauce. I don't know, it's hard to see. You'll get to see it on your plate, and it's emulsified. Now, the sad part about this, you can't make it ahead of time. You can't, once you're done serving it, you can't put it in the fridge and reheat it the next, like, you gotta eat it all. That's it. There's no saving it for later. Now, if you do it a little bit ahead, you can leave it in a warm area, like nearby the stove, but not hot because it's going to split. Not cold because the butter will harden, and then your sauce will be cold and you can't reheat it. So it's kind of that tricky sauce where, how do you do it, right? So practice it a couple times before hosting your most important client at your house and trying it and it doesn't work, and then. But it's a very easy sauce to make. I encourage people to try this way of doing it. And again, this is just a base. It's a simple, just a lemon butter hollandaise. The classic would be to add a little cayenne or spice, a little Tabasco sometimes, maybe a little Worcester to it. You can. There's no right or wrong. You're cooking. I know somebody that just started putting hot sauce at this point. He likes a spicy hollandaise. No problem. You know, if that's what you like, do it that way. I like just a rich, the butter and the lemon just with fish, to me is enough. So I got somebody that just left to go get you the cook one that we're gonna be able to try. Do you guys have any question about what you've seen so far? Or?
Did you cook the top pastry? It was
35 minutes maybe total, maybe 40. It's a hard question to answer, and I'll tell you why, because each oven is different, right? Some oven, you know, they're not perfectly calibrated. Home oven, who cares? Nobody really cares if you set it at 420 and it's actually 430. It's not 10 degree that will make or break your. So once you know your oven, like a hot oven, 10, 15 minutes till you get a nice crisp from 425 down to 375, let it finish cooking. You'll look at the pastry, you're like, yeah, that's good. 35 minutes maybe. And then let it rest for a half hour maybe. It's been tired, it worked hard for you, right? The sauce, you can make it a half hour in advance, right? So while the fish is almost ready, you start your sauce, then everything's resting, everything's ready. And then you can enjoy your company, or it's an occasion dish in a sense, because it not everybody does that every day, right? Like I said, people just pan fry in butter with a little lemon. That's what I do. It's delicious. Yes, sir. Any soft cheese. You don't even have to put cheese. You could put boursin, like anything that is spreadable. I wouldn't go with a hard cheese like mozzarella or cheddar, or because it's just going to melt funny inside. But if you like that, go for it. There's no law again. But I recommend like a spreadable cheese. You can even do like a brie or a camembert, like a soft rind kind of cheese. But and if you don't like cheese, don't put any. It's okay. If you don't like spinach, don't put any. Put mushroom. Put anything. Cook the mushroom. Get rid of all that excess water. And myself, I like it with bacon. Because I'm not the only one. A lot of people like bacon, but some people don't like bacon. So, you know, I wanted to show you the base today and make it your own. Own it, right? That's the beauty of cooking. I don't like pastries and baking because you don't get to muck around with the recipe, because it's a chemical reaction and your cake rise, your cookie, and you can play a little bit with it, but not really. Versus cooking, and you open your fridge. I got olives. I'll put olives in it. That's sounds good. Sounds delicious, right? If you like olives. So it's fun to get to play with. Well, thank you very much. Thank you kindly. So after all that time in the oven, this is what it's going to look like. Looks pretty impressive. If you have a serving platter, you bring this to the table, and that's the fish we caught this afternoon. And everybody's like, whoa, right? Instead of a simple fish fry. So And in theory, like this can be done the day before, assembled but not baked. So, right? And again, I didn't add any salt inside. I didn't season the fish and whatnot because we had salted the spinach already. So the salt, the flavor is already there. So now you'll be able to get a taste of it. If you guys want to, I don't. Now to cut it, there is more than one way to fillet a fish, right? Right? That's the one we're going with. I prefer a serrated knife, but you don't have to. But a bread knife, because it's a doughy dough, a bread knife works very well. And I don't know if you can see from the inside, right? So if you add like a salmon or a trout, then you would have a couple pink layer in there. It looks great with white fish also, I think. Yeah, so very simple recipe. Again, you can add anything, take away anything you don't like in this recipe, make it your own. Very simple to make. It didn't take long, right? So highly recommend you guys trying this at home or a version of it. Yeah.
What do you add to that?
Well, the classic is very, very tedious. The classic, you would sear a beef tenderloin, wrap it in prosciutto, and then make crepes, spread mushroom duxelles, so cooked and chopped up mushroom, roll that in, and then put that inside. Delicious, but it'll take you a whole day to get. Versus this, you can do it in 20 minutes, right? 30 minutes. Beef Wellington is absolutely delicious and gorgeous. Remember to take out the paper from underneath before cutting it. It just enhances the texture without the paper.
Easier to cut.
Yeah. I just gotta sauce them.
Oh, right.
Somebody's excited. That's good. And we're just gonna put a little bit of hollandaise sauce on top. And with the pastry, it's a great sauce to go with pastry because often you're gonna see it with eggs Benedict or something like that. So you got like a little doughy vessel to help soak in and scoop out all the goodness on your plate. The one with sauce are good to go for sure.
You need one more.
One more? Okay. Perfect. So it got quiet, so it's a good sign, usually. Oh, thank you. Again, very simple to make, right? Merci. I really encourage you to try it, to do something like that at home. My pleasure, thank you. And there's 4 little pieces left here if anybody is hungry for seconds. So you got to fight for it though. I'm not the first come, first serve.